It's a Fernandez.
UNBC makes history in Charlotte. One timeout, they don't take it.
Oh!
No, he didn't. Yes, in March Madness. Fade away. We'll take a three. Look at this. The entire time came off that 1-5 high screen and roll. He'll launch it and he'll get it. For West Virginia just disappeared past the
Oh, it doesn't get any better. March is here. Thank God we have a tournament. It doesn't get any better than March Madness, but it also doesn't get any better than Dennis Fithian. Dennis, so good to see you. A couple things off the jump here. You and I have done so many different, whether during bracket reveal shows, post-bracket reveal shows, day of March Madness game shows, and to be able to do it with you tonight, even though you and I have been separated from our radio stuff for a minute, and we're working our way back, hopefully, to find something in the future. It's so good to see you. You look great. You sound great. And thank God we have a tournament. Thank God we have a tournament. Because last year, you and I were talking about this, when we were getting ready with everything shutting down. We were praying there was a tournament. Because Michigan, who knows what they would have done. But no tournament. Thank God we got one this year.
Yeah, well, it's great to be with you. You say I sound great. I wasn't even talking yet, but you said I look
talking
great.
about the pre-show. The pre-show. Sounded great.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, there you go. Yeah, it's great to be here. You know what? I haven't watched this much college basketball in 15 years, so there have been some good things going on. And, today I was a little bit disappointed, honestly, that, that Michigan wasn't there. I was really anticipating them.
Me too.
It would have been a great Sunday. And yet there I was watching the SEC championship game in Nashville, watching that LSU team, which we're going to be talking about, which Michigan will probably draw in the second round, and just sitting there watching Alabama. And that was an awesome game. And then, Illinois, Ohio State was an awesome game too, going into OT. It was a good day of college basketball.
The Owiz has joined us. He says hi. He loves you. He loves the Fifth King. Big fan of yours. Well, let's get right into it, Dennis. And let's start with this. Because, and I know that some people will say, oh, you were just trolling, Leach. I said weeks ago, if Michigan State, and they started playing good basketball, and I give them credit, they beat Michigan in that game. That meant nothing to Michigan, but they still beat them. If they got in, it was very likely they were going to be a first four team. I know things had changed over the last couple of weeks, and obviously when they were able to beat Michigan, that they were maybe off that first four line into the first four bye line. I'm not surprised at all, Dennis. You take a look at it right there on your screen. Michigan State opens up in an 11-11 matchup against UCLA, basically meaning they were one of the last four teams in the tournament. I know that the CBS crew that we just watched was surprised. I know many Spartan fans were surprised. What was your reaction when you saw Michigan State not in the main draw, having to play an extra game on Thursday against a pretty tough Bruins team just to get into the main draw?
Well, we need some clarification. Are the Michigan State, Rockets, Mortgage, Spartans going to have to win the game against UCLA to extend their tournament streak, or are they in? I know the clarification, I think they have to win that play-in game to get in. Remember, These are still play-in games, so they should go out there. I don't know if you've been, there's the two-sided coin here to Michigan State. They've mostly been really suspect all year long, but then they went out there and ripped off those wins against Michigan, Illinois, and Ohio State, those two teams that I was watching today. You go back and say, wow, how did Michigan State actually do that? But they deserve, I think, a play-in game that they're sitting right here. But, the one thing about them is that you have a hard time, picking them to advance very far. They just need that second option to step up. But, getting the playing game. If you've been watching Joe Lenardi, if you believe in him, that's where he's had him the whole time.
Yeah. You know that I forgot to mention, I'm no longer known as Dan Leach. I'm known as the Squatch presented by the Minds of Adulta. So make sure we get the sponsor in there.
Well, hey, if you're growing some money, I'm all right. I'm all right with sponsorships. Good for Michigan State for getting
nothing
that money,
wrong with it.
You know
super
what?
weird.
And I'll abide by them. I'll call them the Rocket Mortgage Spartans.
Well, there's before we get into the bracket, I wanted to throw this up. People are wondering, and I'm with you on the Donardi thing. That's why I kept saying that they're probably going to be a team in the opening round if they get in. Maybe if they won 2 games in the tournament, it'd be different. But take a look, Dennis, at the Michigan State RPI ranking. They're 93rd in the country at 15-12. Yes, they're part of the best conference in college basketball. They got 9 teams in. That's incredible. It has 5 in the top 10, 5 in the top 8. But their net ranking, which they go off, these days with quadrant wins, that's 70. So it's not like Michigan State, even with their nice wins towards the end of the year, beating those top 5 teams, or the 3 top 5 teams in less than 10 days. They had a really bad year until the bitter end, where they had some nice wins, not pretty wins. They had Rocket Watts learn how to shoot for the first time, seemingly all career. But Michigan State's not a good team, and I just can't wait. I'm not trying to troll Fifth, because we know that Michigan's got their own problems with livers and onions out. We'll get to that in a little bit. But I just can't wait for the Spartan fans to make the case that they're going to beat Michigan in the regional final in the East. There's no chance that's happening. They'll have a tough time and could be an underdog against UCLA in that first game.
Yeah, look, I wanted to see Michigan play Michigan State in the quarterfinals of the Big Ten tournament, and that didn't happen. So, it's kind of wishful thinking on both sides to be looking that far ahead to think that they would meet in the NCAA tournament. It would be awesome. I would want it to happen right now. I think, if you're a Michigan State fan, you're probably looking at Syracuse. I mean, if you're really looking at all and Utah State and saying, hey, how come they don't have to play in a buy-in game? And I think you got a case there and an argument. But when you're on the bubble, you're on the bubble. You move a little bit here, you move a little bit there. I think Michigan State fans, I tell you what, I'm not a Michigan State fan. But if I was, and I got to the last screen there, I was sweating thinking Michigan might have been the 2 seed. And if I'd have been a Michigan State fan, I'd have been a little nervous that I wouldn't even have made the tournament. So I would just be happy that I'm in. The streak continues. They'll have a chance against UCLA. And you know what? Could they win 2-3 games? Probably not, but they just did it. That gives you some hope. And that's all you want. That's all you want this time.
All you need is hope.
Is some hope. You want to do a little S&A.
Now, our friend Timothy Frisk mentioned Duke and Kentucky not in first times at 76. How about the first time this year? Duke, Kentucky, Michigan State, and North Carolina were all not in the top 25 at the same time for the first time since 1961. So very, very weird year. Let me throw the bracket back up, my friend. We'll start in that East region right there with the overall number 1 seed, undefeated Gonzaga. Can they become the first team to go undefeated and win it all since 1979? It's been a long time since that's happened. 76. Let's take a look. I'm sorry, 76. 79 was a team that was undefeated in the tournament. But yeah, 76 the last time Indiana
State.
Yep, Indiana State. They were undefeated. They didn't win it though.
No, they lost to the Michigan State Rocket Mortgage.
Yes, the Michigan State Rocket Mortgage Spartans, Magic Johnson Spartans. So let's go region by region here. We'll take a look at each region. We'll, of course, end with the East with Michigan and Michigan State. But you look at Gonzaga here as the 1 seed, a really interesting Oklahoma-Missouri matchup with the 8-9. I think every single 12, we'll get to all the 12s, but every 12 could win. But I think Creighton's going to win. This is the one that I think is safest of the 12-5 matchups. There's always at least one normally. I think every year except for once in the last 15 years, there's been a 12 seed. And most years, there's 2 or 3 that beat the 5s, because if you wonder why is that Leach or Fifth, in my opinion, Dennis, it's because teams that are 12s a lot of times are underseeded. Teams that are 5s are a lot of times overseeded. That's why I think that happens. What about you?
Yeah, I'm right with you there. And a lot of times, like, I haven't seen Santa Barbara play this year, but you watch these teams, and some of them you start to look down, and they're senior laden, and they've won their conference. They only got like 3 or 4 losses. Man, they're really good teams. So that's it. And it's always tough to pick them, but you do have to pick one. You know that. Yep. And I like picking them. I like, a lot of times I pick the 12 just to pick them.
Yep, it's fun. All right, let's go through these games. Virginia and Ohio against Ohio, by the way, the MAC champs. USC against the opening round game. Wichita State, Drake, the 2 last teams in. Kansas, the 3 against Eastern Washington. Oregon, the 7. They're one of my sleeper teams that I still think you do a good job, and I not like what they did against Oregon State the other night. But Oregon State, of course, is on this magical run. They beat Colorado last night, and they're playing 10-seeded VCU that won their conference earlier today. Lost against St. Bonaventure. And then you got Iowa and Grand Canyon. Grand Canyon, a for-profit school that Dan Marley's been a part of the coaching staff as the 15th seed there. What jumps out to you in the region with Gonzaga. I know they haven't. That's the West, but it's really region 1, 2, 3, 4. There's no West, East, South, and Midwest because they're all playing these games in the Hoosier State.
Well, it's a cakewalk for Gonzaga. I mean, Mark Few, those guys ought to be dancing all the way through there. Now, Oklahoma, I like Austin Reeves, their guard. He's a fun guy to watch. But I don't think that, they got a human eraser in the middle. Could give them a little problems there and maybe make it a single-digit game. But when I started looking through the rest of these, the rest of this region here, it is pretty weak. Iowa, they're one of the worst defensive 2-seed teams I've ever seen. You look at Ken Palm, they're number 2 offense, but they're like 70 in defense all the way through here. I would love to, if I was Gonzaga, and I'm a Gonzaga fan, I'm not worried about Iowa. I'm not worried about Kansas. I'm not worried about anybody in here. So I think this is an easy way to just go ahead and put Gonzaga into the Final Four right now.
Well, I look at it, and by the way, if people don't know this, it's a very different format this year, of course. By the way, we have our first year ever with replacement teams. If for some reason you get to have 7 days of negative tests for COVID, or, we saw it happen with Duke and other teams in the conference tournaments. If you don't, it's a 1-bid league. It's another team from your conference that replaces you. So that's something to watch that can really wreck people's brackets before they even play the games. But the first 4 games start at 4 p.m. on Thursday. And then you've got Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So an extra, kind of a holiday there, 5th on Monday. So that's when all these games are going to figure out all the times coming up very soon. I think there's 2 teams that could give Gonzaga a problem. I disagree. I'm not disagreeing with you on the numbers with Iowa. I think you made some great points there about their defensive issues and their Ken Palm numbers. But I think when you look at what Luka Garza could do in a tournament setting, think not same position, of course, but a guy like Kemba Walker that can just take over a team in a tournament. I think Luka Garza could do that for Iowa. So I look at Iowa, and I still am I'm not sleeping on Oregon. I know that Oregon did not finish the Pac-12 tournament the way that I thought they would, but they've been a bracket buster type team for me for a while. I think a 7 seed is lower than they should have been, but that loss to Oregon State hurt them. So those are 2 teams I look at that maybe could give Gonzaga a problem. I think we're both going to advance Gonzaga out of that region to the Final Four. Would I be correct in stating that?
You would be. I'd be interested in watching USC. They've got the Mobley twins there. He's going to be a top 5, going to be a lottery pick. That's always something that's a little bit dangerous there. And, I like Iowa, but I could see them getting popped here. I really like, you're supposed to. If you're the number 1 overall seed, you're supposed to have the easiest road, and Gonzaga does.
All right, well, let's move over to the South region. Baylor, of course, lost. OK State, great play, plus 8.5 in that tournament game against Baylor. But Baylor, of course, has been an incredible team all season long, and I threw up those rankings, the RPI rankings a little while ago. When you look at the RPI right now, Baylor is still 3rd. Gonzaga 1, by the way. Alabama, which we'll get to in a little bit, they're the number 2 team when it comes to RPI rankings. Michigan sitting at 5, by the way. You look at this region right now, Dennis, out in the South, even though it's in Indy. Baylor and Hartford, North Carolina, and Wisconsin in a very interesting 8-9 game. Nova and Winthrop. Nova had that COVID pause. They're obviously a very good team. They can shoot the ball. They actually defend really well, too. But Winthrop is a team that really creates some matchup problems as far as a mid-major goes. That's another interesting 12-5 game. Purdue for the 4th seed against North Texas. Another really interesting game with Texas Tech and Utah State. I think either team has a great chance to win that game. I know Seth Davis picked Colgate, the teeth school, 14-3 over Arkansas. You're in honor of your great dad, the big Arkansas fan. Florida Tech, the 7-10, and Ohio State, one of those 5 Big Ten teams in the top 10. They are playing Oral Roberts, another tooth school. What do you think about the South? What jumps out to you there?
Well, you know what? I love the Ohio State team. I think they're awesome. But when you watch them play, in particular here in the Big Ten tournament, they have real troubles closing out games, man. They can have big, fat leads, and they just cough them up. And some of it's inexplicable. They're going down, missing jams, stepping on the end line, just coughing it up left and right. It's really amazing to watch them in late game situations. Did they learn anything here in the Big Ten tournament? Because, man, they are talented 1 through 5. Now, size is the one part that, really hits them. But you know what? They're physical enough where I think that they can beat Baylor. So this is the first 2 seed that I'm looking at here. And while I like Baylor, I think that Ohio State, when I just look at the lower half of that bracket, they're jumping out to me as much as I'm not ready to go, do I don't even know how to do that. The high or whatever.
Oh no.
I'm gonna pick the Buckeyes to come out of this region here.
All right, I look at this and listen. You saw what Ohio State was able to do today, and just really, really, really give Illinois everything they could. Illinois took control late in the game. Ohio State came right back. Obviously, the Buckeyes had some issues in overtime, but it's one of these things, Dennis, where I'll tell you. That Buckeye team is very, very complete. They play good defense. They got rim protectors. They can score, and they're, they're a very scary team as a 2 seed. I look at the rest of the region, and I mentioned that 6-11 game, the Texas Tech Utah State game. Both those teams are so dynamic, and I think that the winner of that game could give a problem to anybody in that lower half of the bracket. I think Winthrop's got a great chance. I mentioned they got a great guard named Wright, who's a scoring Bazanza. They score a ton of points. North Carolina, Wisconsin's very interesting, but I think when you look at Baylor, I am not completely sold on their consistency as far as the 1 seeds, and I know Michigan has their injury issues. I think they're the weakest of the 1 seeds, to be honest, as far as the most temperamental. So I think this could be one of those regions that gets kind of wrecked. I mean, Va Tech's a team that can shoot the 3. They have a chance to make some moves. Florida will be a tough matchup for them. So I definitely look at the Buckeyes as having a really good chance of getting out of this region, but I look at a team like Texas Tech, Utah State, that could cause some real problems for some teams as they go through these brackets here with obviously no full fans and neutral sites, which we normally have, but not like regular situations in the NCAA tournament. And I think a team like Winthrop could be that, George Mason type team. They're so well coached. They have a lot of experience in the tournament the last several years. And I mentioned that guy, right? They got a good name, forward name, Elmore, that really can shoot the rock and play good defense. So that, to me, I think could be the region of havoc, Dennis. Are you with me on that?
Well, somewhat. Like, I think it's like
before Ohio State, at least.
Well, I'm taking the chalk 1-2 to meet to go to the Final Four, but in the interior there, I think that's where you're going to see all that stuff that you're talking about, whether it's Colgate. And I agree with you with Texas Tech. I didn't watch Utah State play this year, but I watched as much. I said earlier, I watched most college basketball that I've watched in 15 years. 70% of it was Big Ten. 20, the other 25% was the Big 12. So I've seen Texas Tech a few times. They can play with anybody. They can upset anybody in this tournament. So I like what you're saying there. The Colgates, the Winthrops. These are all teams that can cause some problems in there. But in the end, I do think it's going to be a Baylor and Ohio State. One thing I like about Baylor is, man, their guys, when you just look at when they go 5, 6, 7, all those guys got NBA bodies, man. You're not messing around when you don't have any undersized guards or anything. These guys are thick, they're big, man, and they don't get pushed around. I know they lost some games there. I know you said you think they're the weakest out of the ones, but I like that Baylor team, and I think that it's going to be Baylor and Ohio State, but I like Ohio State to get to the Final Four.
All right, I'm going to stick with my region of havoc, and I'm going to go really off the radar. I'm going to go with. I'm going to do it. I'm going to go with Texas Tech to get out of that region. And by the way, I mentioned Utah State. You talked about him as well. Neemias Queta. He's a Portuguese dynamo. That's the thing that scares me about that game. I think the winner of that game, there's something that tells me that they are going to wreak havoc with whether it's. Colgate could beat Arkansas. Va Tech could beat Florida. Yeah, might have a lot of upsets there. But of course, I trust you and agree with you that Ohio State, is a very complete team, has a lot of chances to make the move out of the region, and so does Baylor. But I'm going to go with Texas Tech out of the South. That's going to be my region of death. Fifth, we will take a look at the Midwest and, of course, the East. That brings in Michigan. But let's hear from our friends at Screwball first.
Screwball Peanut Butter Whiskey. A refreshingly unique taste on the world's most classic spirit. It goes down smooth with a perfectly blended finish. Anything but ordinary, and always lives up to the name. Sure, it sips a little different, and that's just who we are. Peanut butter. Screwball Whiskey, the original peanut butter whiskey.
Fifth King, I'll tell you this. You look at Illinois, as we look at the Midwest here, And I remember early in the season, and we didn't know what was going to happen. Of course, I like making bold predictions. We all do. And a lot of times I'm wrong and a lot of times I'm right, but I'll own it either way. I said that I thought Illinois was the best team in the country. And it was early in the season. And at that point, I felt that way. And I remember there were people that kind of agreed with me, but a lot of people were like ripping me on Twitter saying, what are you, crazy leaks? They're not that good. They're to me right now, I know Gonzaga is the best team in the country. They're undefeated. But I think that Illinois is the best team in the country based on what Brad Underwood has done as a coach, what they've got with Cockburn, what they've got with this just incredibly talented, synergetic offensive-minded team that can play hard-nosed defense. I think Illinois is the best team in the country. I know Gonzaga is the overall 1 seed, and they deserve that, but they play in a very weak conference. Illinois has met the task in clearly the best conference in the country, time and time again. And I know they had their issues with Michigan. I know that they've had their issues, a couple times this year, but they won the Big Ten championship, the Big Ten tournament about an hour or so ago. I think Illinois is going to be a very tough out in this tournament.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about picking them to win it all here. When you look at DeSumo, he's a superstar. When you're talking about Cockburn, I mean, he's a giant. I heard, Nan saying, I'm not saying that he's Patrick Ewing, and I've heard other people,
but he is.
He's built like Shaquille O'Neal. I mean, all of those things are true. So you got to deal with a 7'1", 300-pound monster. And then DeSumo's a star. Frankie Williams is back. He could shoot. Frazier's as good as anybody, all the way down there. Granderson's a good piece that comes in off the bench. Bashadashvili, all the way down there, man. Illinois, the thing you don't like about him is that, it's been in a confrontation with Michigan, them claiming the regular season championship and all that. But, yeah, if you're going to pick a team to win it all, they are one of the teams that you're talking about that can do it.
Yep, Sister Jean is back in the 8-9 matchup that could play Illinois, and that Georgia Tech team just found a way. I mean, it was really weird with, of course, the teams that had to cancel themselves out of the tournament. Florida State and Georgia Tech has had to win one game to get to the final of the ACC last time, but they took care of Florida State, and they play Loyola, which is a very interesting team. And still, you got Pastor Porter Moser there, and they've done a great job. And obviously we know their run from a few years back. That 5-12 Tennessee-Oregon State game. Can Oregon State keep it going? They were picked to finish last in the Pac-12. They're not an incredibly talented team, but they've really come together. And I'm not going to compare him to Kevin Walker, of course, in Connecticut. But if you remember 5-6 years ago when Connecticut and Houston won I was actually at that Final Four. They won the national title. They at one point were 8-8 in the Big 12. The Big East. And they went on that crazy run. Remember that 6 overtime game against Syracuse in the guard of the Big East tournament. Teams that get hot sometimes can really make runs, even though they're not as good as these other teams. Tennessee's wildly inconsistent, so that's another 12-5 game to focus on. Liberty, they've done it before. Liberty, but they got Cade. Cade's the best player in the country, I think, from OK State. So we'll see what happens there in the 13-4. San Diego State and Syracuse. Jim Boeheim back in again. San Diego State's an interesting team. They've got great net rankings and metrics when it comes to kind of looking inside and outside of a team. West Virginia maybe a little higher. They should have been a 3 seed for Bob Huggins and Morehead State, the 14, Clemson the 7, Rutgers the 10, and then Houston, a very interesting team, is a 2 seed. They can score in bunches. They're playing the Horizon League champs, Cleveland State. What jumps out to you in the Midwest region, my friend?
Well, there's 3 teams this year that ended up top 10 in the adjusted offense and defense in the Ken Palm, and that bodes really well for tournament success. And those 3 teams, Illinois, Michigan, and Houston. So Houston is, watching them yesterday, man, they are a fast break, put the right foot down, and just get after you the whole time there. But I think a real popular pick, you mentioned Cade Cunningham. I watched Cade Cunningham probably play a half dozen times this year, including last night. People just keep talking about comparisons there. I think the best comparison is Jason Tatum from the Celtics. Cunningham's got a 7-foot reach, man. When you watch him, he plays a little bit unorthodox game. They keep throwing up the splits from what he does in the first half, where he seems like he's just kind of going through the motions, but then he tries taking over in the second half. He does. He tries to let the game come to him, tries to get his teammates involved in the first half. Then he just takes over. I think he starts taking over from the outset here. And like I said, I think they'll be a really popular pick. This is really tough, this lower half, all the way through here. I mean, I can make a case for Oklahoma State. West Virginia could go on a little bit of run. We already talked about Houston there. So this is tough all the way through. Man, I will be sitting there in that second round matchup. And, I'll be Catholic for a day. Me and Sister Jean, man, I'll be pulling for Loyola Chicago against Illinois. That's for sure. That's the part, like, it gets down to it. Do I want to root for Illinois? I think Illinois is the best team, there, but I don't want to root for them. I want somebody to upset them. Do I think Houston can? Do I think West Virginia can? Do I think Oklahoma State can? Do I think Tennessee can? I do. I think all of those teams, can give Illinois a run for the money. This seems like it's the toughest road here for any of the one seats, man. Mr. Underwood, he's going to have to get some more of that hair dye out, because, man, that thing's going to be going gray all the way through here. So, yeah, while I like Illinois, I got to pick somebody to upset them. And I'm going to go ahead.
Mr. Underwood.
I'm going to pick Bob Huggins. Bob Huggins' West Virginia team as a 3 seed to come out of this murderer's row.
I like it. I like where your head's at. By the way, great analysis on CC on Cade Cunningham and Oklahoma State. I mean, they are a team that you always thought had the ability to make some moves, and they really showed it in their run of the Big 12 tournament. And they've beaten good teams. And I think they're going to be very, very tough to beat in that top half. The 2 teams for me that I think could wreck some seasons, and you mentioned cheering for Loyola. I mean, I think Georgia Tech's going to be tough in that game for them to win in the first place. But if Loyola gets through, I think they could with their defensive pressure and what they've been able to do, in their tournament history, especially that run. I think they could give Illinois a little bit of a pause. So that's one team to watch. I think Illinois is going to be too good in the end. But like I mentioned, San Diego State, that's a team that just, I know Steve Fisher's no longer there, but they're just an inside-outside team. They got good numbers when it comes to the net rankings. You brought up some of the other metrics that you can throw in there when it comes to defensive efficiency and the way they're able to not turn the ball over. Those are the 2 teams to watch. I like your West Virginia pick there as well. They're a very sneaky team. When they're on, they beat you by 20, but they have times where they kind of go away. I've watched them a few times late in the regular season where they lost some games they shouldn't have, and that's the one thing that scares me about that. But you look at that bracket, and it is crazy, but I still think Illinois gets through. Are you going to go with another team aside from Illinois, or are you just going to try to cheer against Illinois?
I think Illinois will get there, but I think West Virginia, and that's the one where you get down to it. You want to have a live dog there, and you want to wreck people's bracket, and actually you want to end up winning a bunch of money there. If you get the Mountaineers to go through there, that's kind of how you do it. Picking one of those teams, and again, all the way through there, I think you've got a legit 5 teams. I mean, even down to Tennessee that you could take and make a case for. Getting to the Final Four there. I think they'll be throwing a lot of Houstons, people that look at the metrics.
Yeah.
People that, I just picked West Virginia, Cade Cunningham. There'll be as many Oklahoma State picks as there will be any of those other teams. And, I know if you're in a bracket with a bunch of Michigan fans don't want to root for Illinois. I mean, they're the biggest rival right now. So you will be picking one of those other teams. Maybe that's when you just say, I'm doing it for the money, or I'm a Rocket Mortgage fan. And so you just, punch in Illinois there.
Give me that Mortgage. By the way, RPI, top 10. Speaking of that region, San Diego State, 7. Oklahoma State, 8. Houston, 4. So you got 3 of the top 8 teams in the RPI in one region. And then, of course, Illinois is 11. But we know that Illinois, those numbers can be deceiving at times. That is just hell. That is the region of death. If we're going to
Underwood's going to be gray by the time he gets to the Final Four.
He might be silver or gold by then. Now, the region that you and I have been waiting for, the East region. We knew Michigan would be a 1 seed. I had people trolling me, sending me messages, my Spartan friends. Michigan's going to be a 2 seed. But they're the 1 seed in the East region. They'll play the winner of the play-in game with Texas Southern and Mount State. I can't believe I said play-in game, Dennis. Remember, you and I have had many friendly but often on-air fights about it's a first 4, not a play-in game. But you're right, it probably is a play-in game. They'll play the winner of that. LSU, St. Bonnie's. That's a fascinating 8-9 game. What a run for LSU to barely not win the SEC title. You've got Colorado, and by the way, I think it was Bama's first SEC championship since 1981 or something like that. Colorado, they lost last night to Oregon State. It was kind of the Oregon State train. So I don't know how much that you read into that. But Georgetown, Patrick Ewing had such a problem there until the last couple of weeks. They have been incredible. I've been betting a ton of money on them through this run. I didn't take the money line yesterday, but I think 7.5 was easy when they took down Creighton by 1 million points. That's a fascinating 12-5 game. Florida State, the 4 against UNCG. University of North Carolina, that's a very, up and down Florida State team. Dennis is a 4 seed. BYU will play the winner of, the opening round first 4 Michigan State UCLA game. Texas, the 3 against Abilene Christian. That's an interesting Texas team. That Abilene Christian is a really good lower seed. I don't think they're going to win that game, but it can be a lot closer. We'll see what the spreads are when they come out. Might be a good underdog play for you. I've watched them actually a couple times. They did a really good job in their conference tournament. And then UConn, the 7 against Maryland out of the Big Ten, the 10. And Bama, you want to talk about numbers as far as, net rankings and RPI and just the eye test. Alabama is a very scary team, as Michigan might have gotten the toughest 2 seed of them all as a 1 seed. They play Iona, the 15 seed. What jumps out to you in Michigan's region? And actually, before we get into anything with that, the livers and onions, Isaiah Livers injury, obviously terrible. Eli Brooks looks like he's going to be fine. He obviously played yesterday. If Livers can't come back at all, is that – because I have people that are telling me Michigan's done because no Livers. Obviously, he's one of their most important players. I still think Michigan's good enough to go on a run, Dennis, without him. I really do.
Well, he injured himself. You go back to the Illinois game on that Tuesday, so they've lost 3 out of 5 games really without him or a banged-up liver. So the people that are saying that it's a huge hit, I'm on their side with them. Like, I thought this team was a serious national title contender. I don't think that anymore. However, so I thought their ceiling prior to, heading into that Illinois game, and if really, up until the news, late Friday night about Livers' foot, I thought that, if he just has a bad game or two, I thought he'd be able to come out. He's a senior. He's an awesome player. I think he's an underrated player. I think he's a sneaky. He's more athletic than people give him credit for, and he's their go-to guy in the end. I know they got a couple guys you can make an argument for, but I think this takes them down from the ceiling to being a national championship contender or a championship game contender. But I do think they can get to the Final Four. With all the other pieces that they have, they still, Brandon Johns is a pretty good player. When you're talking about him, being the guy that's a fill-in, you're going to lose some. You're going to lose a lot. You're going to lose a lot with Livers, but he's a pretty good player. So I still think this team can make a run. Having said that, you just start looking through all these teams. I think they're going to need some help. Alabama, Nate Oates is a hell of a coach, man. And they play. Yep. They play full speed, man. If it ends up being, Michigan, Alabama. That's going to be a tough one for them, but really all the way through there. Michigan, Texas will be tough. Florida State will give them everything. And even the second round game, LSU's got 3 guys on their team that are going to end up being in the pros. I know LSU and Michigan matched up just a couple of years ago, and Michigan was able to get by them. And it seemed like it was the same story. It's like, ooh, LSU's got these couple guys that are going to be definitely going to be first round draft picks. Kind of the same story here, but Michigan struggles with athletic guards, and I think there'll be a popular pick if you're looking for an upset in the second round. Having said that, I'm going to pick Michigan to get by LSU, and I think that they can get to the Final Four here, but like I said, they're going to need some help. I knew you liked Georgetown. I saw you tweeting about them all week long. So
I mean, listen, it's amazing. It's like Patrick Ewing. He could do a thing right, and they just really started to come together towards the last month or so of the regular season, Fifth, and I just was but they were getting so underspreaded in their games late in the season and in the Big East tournament, and I just made bonanzas of cash taking them on the money line and plus the points. So that's a very interesting 12-5 game to me. When you look at Colorado, who I think they should have won last night, they were big, almost double-digit favorites against Oregon State. As I mentioned, some teams just play above their heads, get hot, that are not as talented as others, find a way to, win these conference tournaments and steal bids. But you look at Georgetown against this Colorado team, I think it's a toss-up. I mean, Colorado's clearly the more talented team, but Georgetown's as hot as they get. And you mentioned, that LSU St. Bonnie's game. I think St. Bonnie, the LSU has been really impressive. And you mentioned the 3 kids that could be in the NBA for that team. I think St. Bonaventure, that's a toss-up game. Obviously, it's an 8-9 game, but I think I might lead We'll see what the spread is. I might lead St. Bonaventure. I watched them play against VCU today. They could score a ton and score in bunches, and they play some really, really very hard-nosed defense in big moments. So that's a fascinating game. That BYU, MSU, UCLA game is going to be a fascinating game. If Michigan State gets by UCLA, I don't know if they can hang with the Cougars. I don't think Michigan State can score enough. You talked about Texas. They are a great team, but I think that could be one of your shockers, that Abilene Christian 3-14 matchup. We're going to have a 14 seed win this year. UConn, Maryland, I think neither of those teams can do anything for any length of time, but both teams could, have a good chance to win that game. And Alabama, I'm very high in Alabama, Dennis. You mentioned all the different metrics that make them look good, but also, you look at their RPI. They are 2 in the country, right, barely behind Gonzaga, 23-6. They win the SEC tournament. That's a very, very, very scary team. I think if Michigan finds a way to get to the regional final, I'd be extremely nervous about playing a team like Alabama that really does everything well. They barely turn the ball over. I think they're top 15 in the country in assist to turnover ratio. So I'm gonna stay. I know. Hopefully, Livers does a Willis Reed and comes back. Hopefully that happens. If he doesn't, I still think, like you said, Michigan can get to the Final Four. So I'm going to take him to get out of this region. But if not, Alabama would be right there as the second pick for me. I'm going to go chalky in this region. But as I mentioned, watch out for BYU, watch out for Georgetown, and watch out for that 3-14 matchup with a team in Texas that should win that game easily. But a very interesting Abilene Christian team. Is there any teams you're looking at, that aside from Illinois or Michigan and that Alabama team that could somehow find a way out of that region?
Well, what I'm hoping for is in that lower half that I wouldn't mind seeing Michigan State and Maryland just for the entertainment value. Maybe Michigan could, go up against Maryland. Juwan Howard have to be held back again, or if somehow I'm always hoping for Michigan and Michigan State one time to play in the NCAA tournament. So those are the things that I root for. But I just you pull for upsets there because Michigan's going to need some help. I think you hope that Georgetown beats Colorado, and what you really hope is that Florida State gets knocked off, or Texas gets knocked off, or Alabama gets knocked off, because all of those teams. And look, you get to the Elite Eight, you're going to have to play tough teams. But I think you're hoping for some help there if you're Michigan along the way.
Yep. Well, let's pick the Final Four, and if people are just joining us, Michigan, of course, the number 1 seed in the East, and I believe they showed that Michigan will play on Saturday. I know that Michigan State is playing. It's so weird this year. You got the first 4. It's going to be a great day, Dennis. We'll have to stay in touch that day. 4 games starting at 4 p.m. till after midnight.
That's the play-in round?
Yep, the opening round, the first 4. That's on Thursday, Michigan State. They haven't named the time yet, but I'm guessing Michigan State. I'm thinking that will be the primetime game, the 8 o'clock or 10 o'clock game. So we'll see how that goes. I doubt they'll have Michigan State play it at 4 p.m. on Thursday. With the Bruins being a West Coast team. So that starts on Thursday, then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. We'll complete the first and second rounds. Let's give our Final Fours. I will let you go first, my friend. Your Final Four and your national champion.
Well, I am taking Gonzaga. We went through these. I got Ohio State on the other side. I've got West Virginia, and then I've got Michigan. So Gonzaga, Ohio State, West Virginia, and Michigan. West Virginia, I am going to predict to beat Ohio State, and I'm going to unfortunately take Gonzaga over Michigan. So a Gonzaga, West Virginia final. These two teams played in the Jimmy V Classic early December, and it was a single-digit game. And unfortunately, I think I don't know about unfortunately. I think Mark Few and company, everybody's dogging them. They don't know what conference they play in and all these different things. But I do think Gonzaga has the best team, and I do think that they will win it all over Bob Huggins' West Virginia team.
There you go. 50th champ, the Gonzaga Bulldogs. They'd be the first team since 76 to go through the season and tournament undefeated. And remember, the team that did that was Indiana, and they had to beat Michigan under Bobby Knight to win that. That was Zeke wasn't on that team. That was too early for Zeke. Or was he a freshman?
No, Zeke was 81.
Yeah, that's right. I thought Zeke was too young. All right, for me, and I didn't want to throw this up, we have people saying Michigan will make it past LSU without Livers. I don't agree with that. Oren saying go blue. Greg Davis saying time for Gonzaga to win it all. It sure is time. I can't believe they haven't never won a national title. But I'm going to stick. I'm going to stick with Michigan. I know that the Livers injury kills you, but they've been such a good team all year long. I think Juwan Howard Jr. has not just exceeded the expectations early in his head coaching career, but he's shown that these guys will. Even yesterday, no livers, down almost double digits, or actually down double digits late in the game. They come all the way back. They had a bad possession, but a chance to win the game with no time left. So that just shows me and leads up to what the Big Ten. They talked about this during the Nance and Rafter did during the game today. Is that these teams have beaten each other up so badly that it can scare you as far as a tournament run, but they've also prepared you the best they possibly could with how good the Big Ten is. I think it's going to help Michigan. I have Michigan out of the East, Illinois out of the Midwest. I think that in the end, Gonzaga is just too good of a team, even though there's some weird situations possibly in that bracket down the trough. I mentioned, a team like Oregon can go on a run. There's USC in that bracket. Creighton can score a ton of points, even though they lost to Georgetown yesterday in the conference title game. And then the South's my region of chaos. I'm going to have good old Chris Beard and Texas Tech out of there as the 16. Of course, Baylor's a great team, and so is Ohio State. But I'm going to go with a massive upset out of that region, the 16 Texas Tech Red Raiders out of there. But Gonzaga will beat them. And in the other regional or national semifinal, we're all messed up here. It's the West and the East. So it would be Illinois against Texas Tech, and Illinois would take care of them. I'd have Michigan, Gonzaga, and I'm with you, Dennis. I hate to say it. Gonzaga just too good for the Wolverines. If Livers comes back and is healthy, they'd have a chance. But as it stands right now, I'm going to be smart with it and say Gonzaga takes down Michigan. So Gonzaga and Illinois in the national title game, and the Scotch will go with Illinois as the national champions. I can't. It's a Big Ten team, Dennis. I'm not super happy about it, but at least it's a Big Ten team. It's going to be a fun tournament, though. Fun tournament for sure. Any other thoughts, before we get out of here?
Yeah, I'm just staring down the possible gauntlet for Michigan. LSU is going to be a tough game. Florida State, you're talking about Bama and Gonzaga. That is a hell of a four teams that seems just like they're going to need some help along the way. But I just remember the last two times that they made the championship game that year that Trey Burke, Michigan was down 14 points with 7 minutes to go. Trey Burke hit that 30-footer. I mean, who would ever thought that would have happened? This last time out, they made the championship game. It was on St. Patrick's Day. I'm out there, and they're taking on Houston, and Poole had to hit a 30-footer with somebody in his face, to advance.
The deep end of the pool.
And then Harrison, one of the Harrison twins, hit a 30-footer on Michigan in the Elite Eight to go to the Final Four. So a lot of crazy things. It's always like that. March Madness is what makes it so great. So Michigan's going to need another one of those. They're going to need some help along the way. Maybe a Livers coming out in the Final Four against Gonzaga. And, I think, what was it? Willis Reed only scored like 4 or 5 points, for the Knicks back then, but it was just him coming out on the floor. Livers makes an appearance, comes out, just hits 1-3, just that really energizes Michigan. I think the other thought there is watching the games in Indianapolis and then watching the SEC championship today in Nashville. The crowd was a factor. I mean, the people there, you haven't heard it in a while. All of a sudden, It's like you're used to just the bench and you can hear them. Now you get the fans in there, and it's off the chart. So it's going to be awesome. It always is. Now that we have the local teams in there, just sit back and enjoy it. Thanks for having me on.
Dennis, it's an honor. By the way, we got silly Spartan fans like Nick Filko saying Michigan State's going to be the first play-in team to win it all. Okay, I think they're going to be an underdog in the play-in game.
I think Syracuse made a little run as a play-in a couple years ago.
Wasn't the year that VCU went to the Final Four? Weren't they a play-in team?
I don't know about that. Maybe.
I know that they were one year. They went on a run. Maybe that was when they lost in the Elite Eight. But I don't think there's ever going to be an opening round team that wins the national championship. But it'd be nice if they got to the Final Four. Dennis, it's always the best to be with you. By the way, 2 things before we go. I just wanted to throw this up really quick again. I mentioned watch out for Colgate against Arkansas. The first team to 100 is Seth Davis said in that one. That's a team to really look at. And I really like that Winthrop team to beat Villanova in the 12. I think every 12-5 game.
I'm taking all the 12s. I'm taking all the 12s.
I think Creighton's going to beat UCSB, but I think there's nothing wrong with picking all the 12s. I think Winthrop's going to win.
I'm doing it.
I love Georgetown.
Money line all the 12s. Let's do it.
Yo, you know what? If we money lined all the 12s, I think that $50 would pay you $3,000. So let's do it. Dennis, I love you. We'll definitely be in touch throughout the tournament. Maybe do another show. But it's great to see you. Nothing but the best to you and the family. It's an honor to do a show with you. and have you in my life. And I can't wait for a great, hopefully successful tournament and Michigan run and all that stuff. Let's hope, let's pray and knock on wood. There's no COVID teams that have to leave the tournament and have replacements. But we got March Madness back, Dennis, and there's not much better than that.
Enjoy the tournament. Hopefully we'll talk during it, and we'll be talking about Michigan Gonzaga in the Final Four.
Yes. I'd love nothing more to do a preview show with you for the night of the title game with Michigan and Gonzaga, playing through it all. Yes, that's Dennis Fithian. I'm Dan Leach. Thanks so much for watching us. Thanks to Screwball. We will see you soon. Enjoy the madness. For Fifth, I'm Dan Leach. Wash your hands. Spread love, not hate. Wear a mask. Believe in the dream. Peace.